Hello, it's murder viewers, thank you for joining me. Today's case takes us to Leamington Spa, Warwickshire, when on the 28th of May 2020, Carl Moorhouse would be stabbed through the heart after he was ambushed while collecting his car. Carl Moorhouse, 34, aka Marbles, was loved by many, described as a loving son by his mother and an amazing partner and father by his girlfriend. He grew up on Basford Brook Drive, Longford in Coventry, but he had moved to Leamington for a supposed fresh start with his girlfriend. A childhood friend said, "We grew up with Carl on Basford Brook Drive, in Longford, and we all hung around together. He was a popular character on the street who would also make friends with people's parents. My mum loved him. He would always stop to help, even if you weren't there at the time. He was 2 years older than me, and we lived on the street for about 15 years. A lot of us went our own separate ways and moved on, but we all stayed in contact. Carl lived life to the fullest and he was always full of beans. If you were down, he would always cheer you up. He would never, ever be the problem. He was always the problem solver." But there was another side to Carl. He walked on a darker side of life. From his teenage years, Carl was in and out of trouble with the law for things like theft and burglary. At some point, although I couldn't tell you when, he got involved in selling drugs. In 2008, Carl would be sentenced to 10 years imprisonment for conspiracy to rob and possessing a firearm. In 2014, he appeared at Leamington Crown Court, still on license for the previous conviction for attempted burglary. It is said that Carl and 3 other assailants tried to steal a car from a house in Coventry over an unpaid drug debt. Apparently, all 4 assailants fled the scene empty-handed after the owner presented his American pit bull. Carl was given an 8-month prison sentence suspended for 2 years, with 180 hours of community service, after pleading guilty to attempted burglary. Another assailant was given 8 months in prison whilst the other 2 were never caught. Over the years, Carl continued with his involvement in the selling of drugs and was the head of his own drug-selling empire, the Siege Line. On the 26th of May 2020, a safe house run by Carl and his gang on Wolls Road was targeted and robbed by a Birmingham gang known as P-Line. I'm not sure what or if anything was taken, but if nothing else, no doubt there were a few bloody noses and a couple of black eyes. Ultimately, though, this would have been a massive violation and would have to be avenged. Carl wasted no time, and the next day he and his gang would launch an attack in the form of a beating on Callum Hubbard, a drug runner for the P-Line gang. This wouldn't be received well. On the 28th of May 2020, brothers Reuben and Terry Nall, Adam Padley, Callum Hubbard and Emma Bennett, plus others, drove 2 cars, a white BMW and a Vauxhall Astra, from Birmingham to Leamington Spa. Arriving around 10 p.m, they parked up near Carl's Ford Fiesta and waited. Shortly before 10:30 p.m, Carl would return to his car, parked on Lower Leam Street near the junction of Leam Terrace, after leaving the flat on Wolls Road. At least 4 of the P-Line gang launched a brutal attack on the unsuspecting Carl Moorhouse. A struggle ensued and Carl managed to get into his car. He armed himself with a knife. Adam Padley proceeded to smash the windows with a metal bar. Carl tried to escape out the passenger side, but Reuben Nall was waiting for him. He snatched the knife out of Carl's hand and stabbed him with it, piercing his heart. Carl managed to run, but was chased by Adam Padley and Terry Nall. He was then beaten with the metal bar by Padley. As the attackers fled, Carl managed to get himself back to the property on Wolls Road and collapsed. He made a call to his girlfriend who was at home looking after his firstborn baby. He told her, "I've been stabbed, I'm dying, I'm not going to make it." Of course, police and ambulance arrived at the scene and Carl was taken to hospital, but unfortunately, he would go on to be pronounced dead shortly after midnight. As police began their investigations, a post-mortem revealed that the main cause of death was a stab wound to the left side of the heart. The investigation would be a long one. 9 people were arrested in total in the days and weeks following Carl's death, but all would be released pending further investigation. It wouldn't be until March 2021 when any charges were brought forward. Reuben Nall, 28, Terry Nall, 31, Adam Padley, 27, Callum Hubbard, Emma Bennett, 25, Tao Randall, 35, Darnell Sappleton, 23, Javante Scott, 24, were arrested and charged for the murder of Carl Moorhouse and conspiracy to commit grievous bodily harm. Jamani Cunningham, 26, had a single charge of conspiracy to commit grievous bodily harm. I believe all were remanded to prison to await trial, which would begin November 2021. The court heard how on the 26th of May 2020, Padley and the 2 Nall brothers broke into the flat on Wolls Road and caused injury to its occupants, demanding to know where the drugs were. Carl Moorhouse was not there at the time. The trio left empty-handed. The court was then told about Carl's retaliation attack on Callum Hubbard, a drug runner for the P-Line, the next day, May 27th. He received hospital treatment. On the 28th of May 2020, Callum Hubburn sent a message to his girlfriend Emma Bennett asking if she could give him and some of the defendants a lift from Birmingham to Leamington. Both Bennett and Sapleton were recruited for the purpose of their vehicles. CCTV presented to the court would show the movements of both vehicles before and after the attack, including the picking up and the dropping off of all the defendants. It would go on to show how the defendants sat in wait for and then ambushed their target. A witness described hearing Carl shout, help me, I'm dying," before collapsing. The court would hear and see a whole mountain of evidence against the defendants over the course of the 3-month trial. It would take the jury 72 hours to reach their verdicts. On the 28th of February 2022, Terry Knoll, Reuben Knoll and Adam Padley were found guilty of murder and conspiracy to commit GBH. Callum Hubburn and Emma Bennett were found guilty of manslaughter and conspiracy to commit GBH. The other 4 defendants were found not guilty of all charges and were free to leave the court. All of the other defendants were detained for sentencing on the 28th of March 2022. Reuben and Terry Knoll and Adam Padley would receive a minimum of 24 years imprisonment. Callum Hubburn received 15 years and Emma Bennett received 5 years. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for watching. Episode 5 out next Wednesday. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed the content.